Good morning, g'day, good afternoon, how's it going? It's Roger Roadside here saying hello. Hello! Well, the prince and princess, are they princes and princesses still? Kate Middleton and you know, whatever who is it? Henry? Oh, I don't know. The one that basically said, I don't want to be a royal. Oh, please let me be a royal again. They've both come out and they've said, you know, how deploring the thing is that Andrew's done. And again, look, it's another person and another celebrity and another person high up the ranks who's coming out and saying, how terrible is it that Andrew, formerly known as Prince, you know, did the things that he was alleged to have done. And look, I agree with it. You know, it is terrible, some of the stuff that he did. But look, he's a very, 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 very rich man. You know, he was a royal at the time. You know, very, very, very rich men and women get up to some debaucherous shit. It's not like this is the first time that this has ever happened. It is shit. Don't get me wrong. And, you know, I feel for anyone who felt like they were victimized. I also feel as though that there are some people who gravitate towards those sorts of parties or functions or things on yachts or, you know, that sort of like in the hope of, you know, getting reimbursed for it. Now, I don't know, you know, that doesn't make it right. But it's just, I guess the reason I'm going down this line is because, again, another day has gone past where no one has gone, you know, no one of you know, high power or, you know, not the Prime Minister, not any of the royals, not any of the former royals, have come out and said, what about the hundreds of thousands of British girls that have been raped, or that are currently being raped and abused? What about them? Not one single person of note has come out and said that. And that's what pisses me off, because don't get me wrong, the stuff that happens with Epstein is terrible. And I preface that by saying, you know, it is horrific, some of the stuff that went on there, right? But is it really that surprising? Has it ever not been done before? Has it ever, you know, we you know, you just have a look at Bridgerton. You know, you look at a lot of the you know, even going back to the Greek days, mass orgies and stuff like that. You know, I'm sure, you know, this sort of thing has been going on in the history of human civilization. We've arranged parties, we've arranged events, we've cohorted with people that we probably shouldn't have cohorted with, whether they be, you know, depending on what your outlook is, you know, people of the same sex, people of different sex, people of different ages, all this sort of stuff. This has been documented to have been done since ancient times, right? So this is nothing new at all, right? Again, it doesn't make it right. I go back to the preface of, you know, all the stuff that happened on that island and you know, within his company, within his personal company, was terrible and horrific. And I believe that there truly were a lot of people that were victims of that situation. But then devil's advocate also goes, you know, were there people that put themselves into that position, or at least lent into being put into that position because it was going to be financially rewarding for them? You know, if it meant that it was going to, you know, buy their house or make sure that they didn't have to work for 6 months or whatever the case may be, you know, were there people that took that option and financially benefited from it? Or is it a case that they were just, you know, literally herding people up against their will and doing terrible stuff to them? You know, but again, I'm just playing devil's advocate, and I'm just asking the question. And look, I'm not necessarily saying that that's what I believe, but my point is that it's not necessarily a new thing, a new horrific thing that has happened. What is a new horrific thing that has happened is where you've got a country who have allowed hundreds of thousands of fucking undocumented men, and not even in the illegal side of the fence, they've even let them through legally. We've got so many people of certain backgrounds and certain cultures, and we've allowed them to just congregate together, build their own little communities, build their own little, versions of their homeland, even though they didn't want to be there. They're happy to come over here and make everything look shit and basically look like it's, back in their homeland. And we've allowed them to just rape and pillage internally without any bother, without any care. Everyone's just turned, everyone of note, all the police, all the people in, as safeguarding people within schools and stuff like that. The schools themselves have just turned a blind eye. You know why? Because you can't be seen to be racist, and you also, you can't be seen to say anything negative against Muslims. No. Or, people of the Middle East. No. Can't do that. No. So therefore, let's just, they probably deserved it, really. Is essentially what a lot of people who had the ability to make a difference or to flag it or to help or to, do anything of note to try and stop this from happening, where generations of Pakistani men, reportedly in the paper, generations of Pakistani men would celebrate certain events by collectively raping British girls. That's what's been reported in the paper. So, and I've said it before on this channel, and I'll say it again. I've got friends who follow, those religious beliefs, and between them and I, and sometimes I ask them about that sort of stuff, and they say, look, it's tragic. It's definitely not something that, it's extremists, and that's all well and good to have those sort of private conversations. But where are all the other Muslims of note? Where are they in support or in with damning of this situation that's currently going on and that has been going on for decades? Where are they? Why aren't they in the papers saying, listen, this reflects badly on myself and my fellow friends and my family that support this and follow this religion, and we'd like to distance ourselves from it, and we don't believe that this is a situation that is inherent of the religion. We've just got whether it be a cultural thing or whether it be, I don't know, an extremist thing, that this is happening, and they just happen to be Muslim men, and we don't condone it, and we don't where's those sorts of statements coming from? Because I've said it once, and I'll say it again, silence is consensus. If you're Muslim and you're happy with these stories, or you're happy with these stories just going about without any sort of condemnation on your side or from your religious leaders or from your community leaders or anything like that, fucking shame on you, mate. Shame to not say anything. I mean, you might as well just say, yeah, it's acceptable. Well, what are people scared of? This is the thing, mate. This is the absolute thing. We've read books, and we've seen videos, and we've seen films, and we've made films and all sorts of stuff about war and about storming the beaches and all that sort of stuff. Mate, this is a different type of war. I remember this is a war that basically the invasion starts from within, and it bleeds out, and it spreads, and it's like a virus, and basically the virus has got itself some immunity because it's been wrapped up and cloaked up in this world of wokeness, whereby people are too scared to say anything or do anything that might either get them cancelled or get them in trouble, or maybe say some hurty words on social media, and suddenly they're in prison for 2 years. But you know, that's essentially what we're facing at the moment. It's a different type of warfare because it's an invasion from within. You know, and if you don't believe that, then why are there so many? Why are there so many? How are there so many? Why is it? How is there so much? There's either going to be so much bloody warfare and stuff in the entirety of the Middle East and all the lands over there where you know, even, you know, Turkey and all that sort of stuff. Where's all the warfare? Why is it that, you know, that there's not heaps of people from Honolulu settling over here? Why isn't there heaps of people from, you know, Australia sitting over here? I haven't met an Aussie over here for bloody nearly years. There used to be a shitload of us, but not anymore. Where's all the, I don't know, where's all the bloody French? Where's all the Spanish? Where's all the Italians? You know, why don't we have communities that has just been overrun with Italians, and there's loads of, like, I don't know, pizza shops starting up? Why is it only Middle East and the Muslim religion? If diversity is our strength, where's the diversity? Because I'm only sort of seeing, you know, especially one religion being quite predominant and quite predominantly taking over. I saw a thing in Greece recently where and maybe I'll do another video on this separately, but in Greece, I think it was, if I read the article correctly, I think it was 600 illegal mosques were built. 600 illegal mosques, and that was in Greece. And you know what the funny thing is? I tried to ask Gemini or AI exactly how many mosques there were within the UK at the moment, and it wouldn't give me a straight answer. It wouldn't give me a number. And I said, you know, how many mosques, you know, what's the percentage of mosques, or how many mosques have been built since 10 years ago? And it gave me a number for like 10 years ago. So there was I can't remember what the number was, but, you know, let's say it was, I don't know, 100 mosques around the country 10 years ago. And then it just goes on to answer that there's been considerable building and you know, more mosques due to the rise of that religious belief within the country. Won't give me an actual number, but I just find that very interesting, because it's kind of like, is there a suppression on knowing exactly the amount of mosques that are within the UK? Because I feel like it's one of those things where if there, I don't know, I feel like there's certain people out there that are so, you know, it's so hard for them just to get by, and so hard for them to, you know, do the things that they need to do just to survive, let alone really sticking there. You know, everyone's so blinkered, everyone's just trudging along, not really looking around and looking at the fact that, oh, this suburb's changed. Oh, this suburb, what? Hang on, what? There used to be a church there. Now that's a mosque. That's a mosque over there as well. There's another Turkish pub. There's a Turkish pub as well. Why is all that signage not in English? What? Does that make sense? I kind of feel like there's so many people within the UK that are blinkered, that if this sort of information, or, you know, I don't know what it is, but, you know, if there's been, you know, 10 years ago, if there used to be 100 mosques and now there's 1,000 mosques, well, then that's a pretty good indication that there's a lot more people of that religion that have come and settled in this country. And you can say, look, not, you know, again, I preface all this by saying that it's not to say that being a Muslim is a bad thing. I don't believe that whatsoever, right? I don't believe that at all. Do I believe that factually there are massive differences between the Middle East and the cultures over there, and the foundation of say Britain or Western civilization, yes, factually that is true. There are differences, in the way that we view women, in the way that we respect women, in the way that we give opportunities to women, in the way that we don't inhibit them, in the way that we have different views in regards to when it's appropriate to have sex with women, whether or not you need consent to have sex with women. Factually, there are differences. So the thing is that if the majority of people who follow, or if there is high capacity of people that follow a certain religion that come from those areas, and now within your country you've received 1,000+% increase of people who support that religion, then it's fairly safe to assume that you've had an influx of people. There is a very good chance that you've had an influx of people whose foundations and the way that they view things and view people and view the opposite sex are different to what the what the Western foundations are. Like that is what the problem is. It's not the problem that all Muslims are this and all Muslims are that. That's not the case. It's the case that that is very heavily adopted within the Middle East, and within the Middle East there's different foundations that are factual to here. I mean, look at it. I mean, that guy's just fanging around with a bloody cozy jumper on and fucking sandals. What does he do for a job? How does he live? It is Monday, and you're not at work. You're just fanging around with a pair of flip-flops and a bloody sleeping jumper on. I don't know. Look, I'm ranting a bit. Listen, it just frustrates me that I agree that this whole Epstein thing is terrible, and it is 100% horrific, and I by no means condone it or think that it's not something that should feature in the news or not something that should be given airplay or anything like that. But where it pisses me off is that that was an American dude. This happened on America's watch. Okay, yeah, there was a couple of British people involved with it, and yeah, there was obviously a couple of British people of note involved in it, and yeah, it was there are potentially some people that have come out of it that have said that they were victimized and abused and whatnot, and I appreciate that. But when you've got something on your own doorstep that is affecting potentially hundreds of thousands of your own women, kids and teenagers, and you're not mentioning anything about that, or you're not sparing a thought for them, or you're not it isn't your number one priority to try and get that review thing up and running and as quickly as possible, then that's what pisses me off, because it just kind of feels like that no one really gives a shit about that, really, from the top. Where are the people from Good Morning Britain? Where are the people from Loose Women? I mean, Loose Women, when was the last time they said anything about the rape gangs? Have they ever said anything about the rape gangs? Do they not actually care about women? Or do they only care about maybe woke women? Maybe women of, I don't know, different creeds, nationalities, maybe not just white, maybe not white British women, especially poor ones, don't really care about them. But listen, what are your thoughts? I mean, I've ranted and raved for bloody nearly 20 minutes now, but as I said, the former prince and former princess, I think they've released themselves from the royal family, have come out and said that their thoughts are with the victims and that they don't condone the actions of the former Prince Andrew. And look, I mean, that's well done. I mean, who doesn't share those views? But again, it's the sheer fact you've taken the time to do that, and yet again, it's another opportunity that you could have lent some support or thought about the victims under your own roof, under your own country. the tens of thousands of potential hundreds of thousands of over the last decade or so, British young girls, teenagers, who have just been victimised and abused, and you've said nothing. What are your thoughts? Get them in the comments below. Make sure you like the video and share it if you would like to. Make sure, if you're not a subscriber, please make sure you subscribe. I've said make sure quite a fair few times. But I do really appreciate it. Any support and love is helpful. Again, apologies. It's frustrating. I apologise if I've ranted and raved like a lunatic. Look, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong and show me where I'm wrong. And I preface it by saying also, I'd like to think I haven't, violently gone after anyone or gone after anyone specific. So, obviously, if you want to have a conversation or show me where I've said something wrong, feel free to, politely do that, and I'll try to take it on board and at least hear what you've got to say. But look, at the moment, I'd like to just think that there's not enough support being shown to people within this country who are hurting and who have been hurt. And they seem to be just being swept under the carpet, and that to me leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And as a father, I wouldn't like to think what I would do if that happened to a child of mine. So yeah, get your comments down below. Positive starts to the week. Well, at least it was sunny for a little bit. But yeah, hope you're all well. And this is Roger Roadside saying ciao for now. Ciao.